Welcome into the 2022 All-Star Game Selection Show. I'm your host, Emma Carman, joined alongside Cade Crenshaw and Cameron Ezeir. Gentlemen, how are we doing this afternoon?
Doing great, Emma. It's good to see the All-Star Game finally back after a 2-year hiatus.
And Cade, with great weather as well. Early on in the season, it was raining, there was thunder, but now we're enjoying great weather on the Cape.
This Saturday, July 23rd, will be the All-Star Game here at Spillane Field, 6:05 p.m. game start. We're going to take you through some of the players selected on each of the teams, and we'll go from there. Starting off the West Division is the Hyannis Harbor Hawks. Cade, the Hawks have been hot with an 18-10-6 record. We're going to start with their two infielders that were selected. Tell me a little bit more why they were chosen.
Well, you're talking about two players that utilize great speed on the base paths. I'll start with Mitch Jebb, a Michigan State shortstop, third baseman player, was all Big Ten this past spring, and he's picked up right where he left off on the Cape. A .318 hitter, 6 doubles, 3 triples. He's also stolen 15 bags on the year, and that's been the key to a lot of Hyannis' success this season is their aggressiveness on the base paths and to turn singles into some extra base hits. And nobody does that better than Riku Nishida as well. The soon-to-be Oregon Duck, 25 hits this summer, just 1 for extra bases. He is a pure contact guy, really a slapper hitter. Just right on the infield, he'll beat it out up the line. Two exciting players to watch for the Harbor Hawks.
From the infield to the outfield, Cam, you know, they'll have 3 representatives out there. Who is it, and what are we looking for when we come to the game on Saturday?
So Hyannis has been one of those surprise teams this summer, and Cade already alluded to it. They're really aggressive on the base paths, but there's no shortage of great hitters on the team as well. Cole McConnell, not just a defensive player in the outfield, but he has been phenomenal for this Harbor Hawks team. He's top 3 on the team in batting average, hits, home runs. He leads the team in RBI, and this is a player that just set a single-season record at Louisiana Tech with 76 RBI. And then he's not just the one player that gets it done. Tito Flores as well out of Michigan. Talk about a Wolverine with a whole lot of gusto. This is a player that started off the season with an 11-game hit streak, hit safely in 15 of his first 16. If you want to see a guy hit, you come to the All-Star Game to see Tito Flores. And then Dominic Patelli, he's your everyday utility guy. He's a player that's played in pretty much every game this summer. It proves his longevity on this team, and a player out of Miami that has shown time and time again that he can steal bases, 11 on the summer, and he's also a big prime time hitter. So those are the 3 to watch out for on the Harbor Hawks.
We've got the infield, we've got the outfield, and now to the mound, Cade. Who are their 2 representatives for the Harbor Hawks for this Saturday?
Well, one's a great story in Mag Cotto, a hard-throwing left-hander out of Kentucky, a Fort Mill, South Carolina native. His first year with the Wildcats this spring, mainly a bullpen piece, but here with Hyannis, he's turned into a solidified starter, and he's a hard-throwing left-hander that leans on the fastball roughly 80% of the time, and well, rightfully so. It's an upper 90s fastball. Some guns have had it in triple digits this summer, but great location on it as well. He's going to lean on that fastball heavy, a little bit of changeup and curve mixed in as well, and he's been phenomenal for the Harbor Hawks this summer. And then, you go from Mag Cotto over to Zach Volker out of Long Beach State, another great player who's mainly been a bullpen piece for Hyannis. 8 appearances, just 1 start on the season, but he has been strong, a scoreless streak of over 12 innings to start the summer.
So those will be your 7 representatives for the Harbor Hawks. You know, Cam, how much do these players mean to that Harbor Hawk team?
So much. In the last 2 seasons, the Harbor Hawks, a combined record of 17, 60, and 3. Already this season, they have eclipsed that win total over the last 2 years, and it's a big in part because of these players. And not just that, we have to realize in the month of July alone, remember, we're only a couple weeks into July, 9 wins for the Hyannis Harbor Hawks. That's more than all of last season. So when you talk about these All-Stars, they mean so much for this team.
They do have that first-year manager there. You know, what do you think he is doing there to kind of get these wins under the belt? And now 9 wins, you mentioned 18 wins total within just July. Those 9 wins mean so much. So what is it like having him there?
Eric Beatty's that young type of coach that you want in your organization, knowing that he brings a whole lot of energy. I've talked about it with multiple teams on the Cape, multiple people as well, and they say the one team that looks the most alive on the Cape, it's the Hyannis Harbor Hawks, and it's large in part due to the success and this leadership by Eric Beatty.
Some may say the Hawks are hot, but we're flipping it to Cotuit, the Kettleers. They will have 7 representatives, just like Hyannis. You know, Cade, we'll start with you. 5 position players for the Kets. What can we look through with these 5 guys?
Well, it's a big credit as well. When you anytime you get 5 offensive players that are all-stars, it really shows how powerful of an offense the Kettleers have been. And they've seen so many different faces this summer because of the draft and other reasons that they're still having 5 dudes on the team is a big impression. But let's start up at the top. Caleb Movavita, a catcher out of Cal. He's been as consistent as can be, a .314 hitter so far, coming up on 20 games now. Then you go to Tyler Johnson, a Coastal Carolina Chanticleer, 6 home runs for the big man. Not only that, then Tommy Troy. How about this guy? 5 home runs out of Stanford. He's been phenomenal. A former Wareham Gateman that walked off Wareham earlier this year in his first game with Cotuit. And then you go on later in the list. C.J. Cavas out of Miami has been a terrific middle infielder for them. And then Eddie Park, another Stanford Cardinal for Cotuit. 2 players who have been consistent, hitting over 250 with a couple RBIs on the season, 12 combined between those two. The Kettleers have a pretty good squad.
Then we go from the infielders, outfielders, utility to the mound. You know, Cam, 2 representatives for the Kets for this All-Star game on Saturday. What can we look for with them?
Well, it's the Cotuit Kettleers pitching staff that was top half in the Cape, and whether it be ERA, WHIP, opposing slugging percentage, opposing batting average, it doesn't really matter. This pitching staff has been phenomenal. And the headliner is Harrison Cohen out of George Washington. What a mainstay this guy has been for the Cotuit Kettleers. Over 26 innings of work. He has a sub-3 ERA and a player that takes that leadership role of the team. A lot of the times in summer baseball, you take into account it's the whole team. These are new players, but he has been that number 1 guy for the Cotuit Kettleers. He is so good on the mound for the Kets. And then you shifted over to Ben Johnson out of Georgia Southern, a Georgia Southern program that hosted a regional for one of the first times in program history, and then he comes on the Cape and has a sub-2 ERA in over 17 innings of work. This is a player that had an outing against the Orleans Firebirds, 5 2/3 innings of work, 7 strikeouts, allowed just 1 hit. It's the biggest reason why the Cotuit Kettleers were the hottest team on the Cape to start this summer, and why you should be really excited by the Cats going into the All-Star game.
7 selections for the Cats, that is. You know, Cade, what do you think each of these players have impacted the Cats? You know, they started off super hot, as Cam mentioned. What do you think their impact is on this program?
Well, let's start with Cohen. He's a veteran guy, 3rd year back with Cotuit, and he knows how you work through a summer season, and not every pitcher is aware of that. You've got to pace yourself. You have to work yourself up and really pick your spots well. You can't always lean on your best stuff because these guys are going to see you probably once a week, so you can't always go with your best stuff. You're going to have to mix some things up. So big credit to Harrison Cohen. He's been the leading charge for that Kettleers pitching staff. And on the offensive side, they've just had such a competitive balance, top to bottom. I mean, anytime, like I said, 5 all-stars off of the same offense, you only put 9 guys out there every single night. So anytime you can put 5 in the all-star ballot is huge, and that's a big, big credit to the job Cotuit's done.
From Cotuit to Bourne, the Braves will have 6 representatives here at Spillane Field on Saturday. Cade, you know, we'll start with Matt Shaw, Evan Slight, Chris Brito, 2 Rutgers products, a Maryland product. What can we look for with them?
Well, let's start with Shaw. You're talking about a potential Cape League MVP candidate towards the end of the summer. Leads the CCBO with a .368 hitter, right? He's had 17 extra base hits, 5 home runs. He's driven in 18 and stolen 15 bags. Matt Shaw has been the do-it-all player for the Braves this season, and he's been the driving force behind such a potent offense. Then you go to a pair of Rutgers Scarlet Knights, Evan Slight and Chris Brito, 2 power hitters that have done a phenomenal job. Brito, 4 home runs this summer. Slight with a pair, 2 hitters that have been the driving force as well. You put Shaw near the top of the order, and then those 2 in your 3, 4, 5 hole mixed in. That's a dangerous, dangerous Bourne team heading the playoffs.
You know, Cade, those are some offensive powerhouse for the Braves, but you know, they also have had very strong pitching this season. So Cam, 3 representatives for Bourne. What can we look for on Saturday?
Well, you start with Seth Keener out of Wake Forest. He's been your number 2 on your staff. He started as that solidified number 1 guy and played really well, a sub-3 ERA, almost 20 innings of work. And a player in Seth Keener, and on the Cape, I like to look at, you know, opponents that you face. And the Hyannis Harbor Hawks have been so good. We just talked about them a moment ago. Seth Keener, 2 games against the Harbor Hawks, 6 combined innings. He struck out 5 and only given up a couple runs. So a player in Seth Keener that's good against really great teams. And then on the other side, Ty Cummings. Talk about a guy out of Campbell, and I love myself a good mascot, the Campbell Camels. It might confuse some people, but I'm a huge Campbell Camel fan, and Ty Cummings has had the best ERA on this staff. Sub-1, and Cade and I always talk about it on the Gateman broadcast. If the ERA starts with 0, it's not good, it's great. Cummings has been phenomenal, 8 scoreless innings in his last 4, and a player that you can watch out for in this All-Star game as the solidified number 1 for the Bourne Braves. And then Bryce Cunningham, he started the opening day game for the Bourne Bravos, and a player in Cunningham that has started 5 games and has proven himself as time has gone on. He has an ERA under 3, and the Bourne Braves pitching staff, amongst the leadership of Scott Landers in his first year for the Bourne Bravos, is huge for them to just gain confidence over time, and their pitching staff is a big reason why this team is pushing toward that top spot in the West.
You mentioned Scott Landers' first year as a field manager. This team's had a lot of ties, but what do each of these players bring to the table that's so much different than most of these programs?
Well, you look at on the offensive side plus the pitching side, a lot of those ties could be losses if these guys weren't on that team for Scott Landers and Bourne. Such a talented group, and it's such an offense that you never know where the weakness is going to lie, because there is no weakness the 1 through 9. They're on the pitching side of things. They have a great pitching staff all around. Of course, Scott Landers was the pitching coach last year for Brewster, who brought home the title. He's no stranger to putting together a solid staff out in the pen, and that's evidence so far for Bourne's success.
Let's kick it to Claire Foley, who has spoken with some of the players earlier this week about what it means to be an all-star and what they're excited for this Saturday.
Yeah, I'm excited to meet all the guys. I think there's a ton of good guys going. I think there's great players. And just kind of being able to talk to everyone and kind of build a relationship, I think is going to be really cool.
It's huge. I mean, it was so special getting to call my dad when I found out. And like Seth said, it's a great league here. And being able to come up here and be an all-star with all these great players is really cool.
25 minutes down the road is the Falmouth Commodores, who will have 5 all-star selections here at Spillane Field. We'll start with the offense. You know, Cade, they will have 3 representatives. What can we look for, and what are some of their best power tools?
Well, you start with Colby Halter at the top, the Florida Gator, who's ranks top 10 in the league with a .290 hitter, but he does it more consistently. Not necessarily a big power bat, a couple homers on the season, but more so just a consistent hitter at the plate. Then you go to Andrew Peatney, a long, lengthy 6'6" center fielder. He's going to stretch things defensively, but also at the plate. 4 home runs this season. He's also taken a couple bags with runs driven in the double digits. He's been a great player for them. He's riding an 11-game hit streak as well into the All-Star break. And then you go to Alex Mooney, who's been one of my favorite players to watch on the Cape this summer. A Duke Blue Devil who's hitting over 250, right? He's stolen double-digit bags. He's played in over 30 games. He's been a mainstay for the Commodores lineup each and every night. He's their starting shortstop, and he has just been phenomenal. This is all around a great Commodores team and great set of selections.
For the Doors, they will have 2 pitchers on the mound. They'll have a BC New England native and a left-handed pitcher from Florida. Cam, what are we looking for with them?
It's also a couple lefties, couple southpaws on the mound for the Falmouth Commodores, and these are 2 that headline a staff that really hasn't been all that great this season. It's picked up as we enter the All-Star break, but the Falmouth Commodores give up the second most hits, second most batting average against. I mean, this isn't a team that you're highlighting their pitching, but if you're going to highlight 2 pitchers, they're some of the best in the league. We start with Joey Ryan, the lefty out of Boston College. This is a guy that has tied for the most appearances for Falmouth with 10, so longevity is something that you can credit in Joey Ryan. Also a great story with Joey Ryan as well. He's the only player on the Cape that has ties to Cape Cod. He's actually from Falmouth, so he stayed home pitching for the Falmouth Commodores, and this is a player in his 10 outings that has only given up 1 earned run, a 1.38 ERA, so Ryan is a player to watch out for. Philip Abner is his lefty counterpart out of the bullpen. He also has a pair of starts as well, and the Florida Gator has been sensational this season. Amongst all pitchers on the Cape that have at least 20 innings of work, Philip Abner has the best ERA, a 1.28 earned run average. He has been sensational for this team, and I'll say sensational one more time because Philip Abner is the guy that you want to locate when you come to the All-Star game or you watch or listen to the All-Star game, because he is a player that's been a mainstay for this team.
As you mentioned, the Doors have had a little bit of a struggle this season, but all 5 of these representatives have been super strong for this Doors team. What have they meant to this program, Cade?
Well, I'll go back to Alex Mooney. There is no Falmouth season without Alex Mooney. He has been such a mainstay for them. Then you go to Andrew Peatney. Not only he's been great defensively, but like I said, offensively, an 11-game hit streak. And then you talk about guys like Abner who have been so consistent out of the pen. And in this league, you can have great starters, but you win games with bullpens in summer ball. And, you know, Phil Abner is such a key piece for the Commodores to have, especially as a left-hander, adds that extra dynamic to the pitching staff. So really, really all-around good year for Jeff Trundy's squad.
And now we bring it right here to Spillane Field for the Wareham Gatemen. They will have 3 all-star selections for this Saturday's evening's game. You know, Cade, we'll start 2 infielders. What are we looking for with both them?
Well, you go for two players who have had such an impact on the Gatemen season. Let's go Max Anderson first. The Nebraska Cornhusker, he's seen action at third base, second base, and first base so far this season. And he got a slow start to the summer, but he's quickly turned it around and turned himself into a solidified all-star. He's this team's best hitter, no doubt about it. And he's been the most consistent at the plate as well. Just one home run on the season, though, but that batting average just shows you consistently week in and week out. Just earlier this week, a 4-hit performance and a loss at Bourne. There's no doubt about it. You look at Max Anderson, and he's a phenomenal player for this Gateman team. And then you go from there. Let's talk about Ryan Campos, just a true freshman out of Arizona State. Led the Sun Devils this spring in batting average with a .367 hitter, and he's carried over here onto the Cape. And not only that, we talk about Anderson playing a couple different positions. Campos is primary catcher, but he also saw left field for the first time since high school early last week. So Ryan Campos has been a do-it-all player as well. Those are two special hitters for Harvey Shapiro's group.
Grayson Moore has been an absolute dominant product from Vanderbilt for the Gatemen here. You guys are two broadcasters for the Gatemen. What is he going to bring to the mound on Saturday?
He's one guy that at the beginning of the season, if you told me Grayson Moore was going to be an all-star, I'd say, okay, give it a couple outings, right? Take him out of the pen a couple times and we'll see. And he was unbelievable. His first 4 outings, 10 1/3 scoreless. He gave up a couple earned runs earlier in the week, but it's a player that, his fastball is going to work. He likes to pick his locations, and also he's really good at attacking hitters and knowing what the hitters want, so then he can go against that. And that's when pitching is at their best. He attacks down the middle, but he also picks out his locations when he knows a hitter is sitting dead red fastball. Grayson Moore has meant so much, not just for the Vanderbilt program, but also for the Wareham Gatemen, and for Spillane Field to host the All-Star game, and Grayson Moore, as well as Ryan Campos and Max Anderson, to be a part of this game. It's so special. We haven't had the All-Star game in over 2 years, so to have 3 players representing the home team, the fans can come out, they can enjoy, and they know they're rooting on some of their home players, is so special, especially because Harvey Shapiro, first year as a field manager, his 24th as a head manager on the Cape, and it's a guy with over 500 wins on his career. So you take into account all that historical significance. You take into account there's 3 Wareham players, and it's at Spillane Field for the first time in over 3 years. Really, really special day.
As I mentioned, you guys broadcast team here for the Gatemen at Spillane Field. What does it mean to you guys to be able to host and kind of get on air and showcase everything you guys have here?
Well, it means a lot to us personally, but also just means so much to the organization. You get the honor of hosting the All-Star game. That shows a lot of respect from the league office to the folks here in Wareham. And, that starts with Andrew Lang, our team president, and Bob Prince, our team general manager, and even Coach Shapiro as well. All around, really exciting event that a lot of people in Wareham are excited to host.
From the west to the east, we go with the Yarmouth-Dennis Red Sox. They have a league-high 9 selections for this Saturday evening game. Cade will start 1 catcher, 2 infielders, 2 outfielders, all over the map. What are we looking for?
You always know you're going to get a good team when Scott Pickler's the field manager, the winningest coach in Cape League history, heading up YD for yet another season. But he's got a super talented group. Let's go start first. Luke Schliger, their catcher out of Maryland. He's hitting .280 this summer. Then you go Hunter Haas, the second Arizona State Sun Devil we'll talk about. He's appeared in over 30 games. Let's kick it to the outfield. Homer Bush Jr., who has been phenomenal. Second on the team, a .291 hitter, but I just find it so ironic. Homer Bush Jr., a member of the Red Sox. You probably know his dad was a World Series champion with the New York Yankees, but Homer Bush Jr. out of Grand Canyon's been great. Then I go to Cole Carrick, a player out of San Diego State who is known just for producing pure hitters. They are the Aztecs, of course, Tony Gwynn being the mainstay there for so many years. But Cole Carrick, top 4 in the league, a .321 hitter. And then I go to Michael Bovey, a guy out of Nebraska, Omaha, with the Summit League Player of the Year, and boy has he represented the Summit League well on the Cape. A .253 average for him. He's also drawn 15 walks on the season. An uber patient hitter with tons of power, tons of pro potential as well. He's probably one I'm going to be excited the most to watch come Saturday.
The Red Sox have been very strong offensively, as we mentioned, but the pitchers, 4 selections for them, very strong ERA-wise, whip-wise, everything. Cam, take us through their 4 selections.
3rd lowest amount of walks, 4th highest amount of strikeouts. This is a Red Sox team, although the offense has been great, the pitching even better. We start with Bryce Robeson out of BYU, a sub-2.5 ERA, and this is a pitcher you really want to watch out for, especially because it's a YD team that they relied on Jared Lyons for so so long. He got drafted, so who do you turn to? Well, it's Bryce Robeson. And then you shift things over to Luke Jewett out of UCLA, a 2-0 record, 15 strikeouts and 14 innings of work, and he's been so good for this team, especially because it's a unit that's been so consistent all season long, a big reason why YD is atop that division. And then you shift things over to Zach Veen out of Point Loma Nazarene. Let's show some love for the LA area, and Veen has been so incredible for this team, an ERA that sits below 2, and that's going to be a common theme for the YD Red Sox. There are a lot of ERAs that sit below 2 as a team. They're a 2.94 team in terms of earned run average. And then I want to show some love for my San Diego guys and Ivan Romero. There's a whole lot of San Diego players. You mentioned San Diego State earlier on the YD Red Sox. And Romero has been his best at the end of June. He's just continued it on 4 outings. But at the end of June, at Bourne, at Harwich, a combined 9 1/3 innings of work, 11 strikeouts, just 6 hits. This team is so good, and they rely heavily on their pitching staff.
Strong pitchers, strong offensive play, defensive play. The YD Red Sox, 9 selections, as I mentioned, a league high. Cade, what are these guys bringing to this team and Scott Pickler's program that's just making them such a standout program?
Well, top to bottom, you have to have consistent hitters at the plate. If you're going to be the top team in the division, you're expected to win, and you're expected to win consistently, and that starts on the offensive side. And there's been so many great names for YD this season, a lot of players that have already been drafted just last week, but even the pitching side of things, it's top to bottom. This is an all-around YD group. They're one of the favorites to bring home this year's trophy.
Next up in the East is the Brewster Whitecaps. Cade, we'll start with you. 1 infielder, 1 catcher, 2 outfielders. What are we looking for?
Well, let's start in the state of Texas. Curtis Byrne out of TCU. He's been great this season, hitting over 225. And then you go to a player in Abilene Christian, Grayson Tatro. He's driven over 15 runs. He's stolen 7 bases and has done it consistently at the plate with extra base power. Then I look at David Mendham, an Oklahoma State Cowboy, is a pure power hitter. 234 on the Cape, but 11 home runs this spring. He's still getting started with Brewster. 3 doubles, 7 RBIs for the Whitecaps. But then I go to the outfield, and my favorite player to watch in this year's All-Star game is Rutgers' Ryan Lasko, an elite outfielder. To me, he's been the best defensive outfielder I've ever watched in summer baseball, hands down, and he also does it at the plate. A 224 hitter this summer for Brewster. Ryan Lasko is definitely named to watch, not just for this year's All-Star game, but next year's draft.
And now for the Whitecaps, Oxford and DeMartini on the mound. What are we looking for, Cam, when they're out there to perform?
Yeah, Carson DeMartini is more of that utility guy. He's a 247 hitter on the summer in 16 games, and this is a player that's uber patient at the plate. In DeMartini, a Virginia Tech Hokie that has walked the 3rd most amount of times on the Cape, 17 walks. So a guy that is patient, like I mentioned. 5 multi-hit games, and why I'm most impressed by that is I look at the multi-hit games and say, okay, that's good. How does it affect the team? In those 5 multi-hit games, the team in the Brewster Whitecaps, 4-0-1. So they haven't lost a game when DeMartini is hot. And then Brennan Oxford is the only player on the Brewster Whitecaps with a blank ERA, and that's in 9 appearances. He has been unbelievable out of Wake Forest. And one thing I really like about Brennan Oxford is his ability to strike out hitters. He's not a guy that'll go more than an inning or 2, but in his last 6 games, he struck out 3 or more batters 4 times. So DeMartini at the plate, Oxford on the mound, and that's a recipe for success for Jamie Shevchuk coming back as a CCBL champion last year with the Whitecaps.
As you mentioned, a championship last season. These 6 guys have been key to their team. Cade, what have they all brought to the table this season?
Well, they've brought a competitive balance, I think, most of all. You get a group of great defenders, but also, like I said, they've been consistent hitters at the plate. And then when you have a guy in Brennan Oxford who is just so reliable, oftentimes, especially in summer ball, with these coaches, they don't know these pitchers that well. I mean, they didn't recruit them out of high school. Obviously, they haven't had them go through their program in recent years. They see them for 3 months at a time, give or take, and then they're gone for 9 more months, and they could come back, they might not. So you never know what you're going to get, but to know you just have that I guess just calmness about it. You know what you're getting in the guy, and that's what Brewster has in Brennan Oxford.
From Brewster to Harwich, the Mariners will have 6 representatives at the All-Star game. We'll start with you, Cade. Vetrano, Goodwin, Wilkin. Wilkin's going to be a home run derby contestant, but what are we looking for during the game?
Well, let's go Brock Wilkin first. A big, tall power hitter, 6'4", 225. The bat carries a lot of speed and a lot of power with it. And, then I go to a guy like Joe Vetrano, another 6'4", 230-pounder who's played phenomenal all season long for Harwich, but also look at Nick Goodwin. He's been as consistent as you can be. He's appeared in every game this summer for Harwich, 14 extra base hits, including 5 home runs. Goodwin, his nickname is Goody, and he has been good for the Mariners.
For the Mariners, they will have 3 pitchers here at Spillane Field. Cam, what are we looking for out there with them?
Well, with the Harwich Mariners, of course, you can't overshadow Brock Wilken, like Cade mentioned, the reigning MVP on the Cape, the youngest Cape League MVP ever, and that is something to point out and highlight. But I also want to highlight one more thing. Tommy Seidel is a utility player on this team. His brother Billy Seidel was just drafted by the Chicago White Sox, so we are all congratulating Billy out of Duke and hoping that he has a lot of success on the south side of Chicago. But let's focus a little more on his brother. Tommy Seidel has been unbelievable for this team. He's top 3 on the team in doubles, RBI, and stolen bases. 10 stolen bags for Tommy Seidel. Harwich only has 26 as a team, so he represents close to half of the stolen bags. A lot of speed on the base paths from Tommy Seidel. And then you shift it over to the pitching side of things, and us Wareham guys, we still have nightmares about Zane Probst out of Seton Hall. 8 games pitched this summer, 2 starts, and this is a pitcher that had his first start of the season, the first start of his collegiate career ever. He never started for the Seton Hall Pirates in his first 2 seasons, and he went 7 strong against Wareham, only allowed 3 hits, no runs in that win for the Harwich Mariners. So as we have nightmares over here, I'm going to move on to the next player because it's just not worth talking too much about Zane Probst, who has a .94 ERA as well and a 1-0 record that win over Wareham. Drew Conover out of Rutgers, big, tall pitcher, 6'5", and a player in Conover that has been so good. He has a sub-2 ERA, 16 strikeouts to only 3 walks. And you talk about a Harwich Mariners team that has been reeling as of late, and they're hoping that their pitching staff can get it going. Guys like Probst and Conover are the mainstays that can really propel them into maybe a playoff spot.
We mentioned all 6 of those players, Cade. You know, what have they done different this season that has made the Mariners recently kind of get a little bit hotter?
Well, I think they've utilized different ways to finding a way on the base paths. I even look at a guy like Joe Vetrano. I said he's 6'4", 230. He's stolen a base this summer. How about that? So they're using a little bit of different techniques there in Harwich, and they're, like Cam said, they're battling it out for a playoff spot across the final few days of the regular season here. They're going to have to count on guys like Vetrano, Brock Wilken, last year's MVP, and even a guy like Nick Goodwin to continue. He may play in every game this summer out of Kansas State. This is a Mariners team that has a chance once they get the playoffs to maybe cause some upsets.
The Chatham Anglers will have 5 representatives here in Wareham on Saturday. Cade, we'll start. We got 1 from the Midwest, 2 from the South for those infielders, outfielders. What are we looking for?
Well, a pair of ACC representatives. Let's go Jake DeLeo first out of Georgia Tech. A team best 272 average. He's also driven in double-digit RBI on the season. Then I look at a guy like Caden Grice. Tall, 6'6", left-handed hitter with pure power. 4 home runs on the season. He's a 225 average. Caden Grice is a really exciting pro prospect for next year's draft, just a sophomore. He's also a two-way player. He's thrown a little over 6 innings for Chatham out of the pen this season for Tom Holliday's squad. Then I look at Marcus Brown out of Oklahoma State, a player who's appeared in over 30 games this summer and is really stolen 8 bags as well. So once he gets away on the base paths, he turns it into extra base hits and a player with a pair of home runs as well.
The Anglers will have 2 pitchers here at Spillane Field. Cam, what are we looking for with them? Very strong pitchers for both the representatives from them. What are you looking for?
Yeah, with Ben Hampton and Alex McFarland. First, I want to start out, you know I love my shout-outs for MLB draft picks. And Tom Holliday, his grandson Jackson Holliday, just got picked #1 overall. The Cape lineage is still there in the MLB draft, which makes the Cape the best summer league in the entire country, and it keeps on showing and showing. And Ben Hampton is that one guy that's showcasing his stuff, and he's been one of the best pitchers on the Cape. A 2.01 ERA, but when you dive into his statistics, talk about a guy that just throws strikes, and then after that, he throws more strikes. 37 strikeouts to just 4 walks in 31 1/3 innings of work. This is a guy that's proven based off his longevity, and also he's one of the best strike throwers on the Cape. 7 or more strikeouts, 4 times. Ridiculous stuff from the lefty out of West Virginia. And then you shift it over to South Beach for Alex McFarland, the righty standing at 6'4" out of Miami, and it's a player, 16 strikeouts, 5 walks, and 12 2/3 innings of work. But he's that one guy out of the pen that you can rely on for the Chatham Anglers, for a staff that's been so reliant on their bats as of late. They're making a playoff push in which many thought they wouldn't because of their pitching staff, and McFarland, Hampton, they feature at the top.
From Hampton to Grice, those 5 representatives have been super strong for the Anglers. Cade, what have they done that have made them stand out and kind of make that playoff push at the end?
Well, they've helped the Anglers turn their season around, like you said. This is a group that was the last team to hit double-digit wins on the Cape, but now they're carrying a little bit of a win streak into the All-Star break, and they've battled back in the playoff picture just 3 points out heading into Saturday's All-Star break. So this is huge, and you count on guys like DeLeo. He's been in their 2-hole for most of the season, and you understand why the pure consistently, but then you bring a guy like Ben Hampton, not only as a starter, but out of the pen as well. Tom Holliday's group, they were a little bit slow to start the party, but boy, have they arrived in a big way.
We'll send it to Alez Feuz, who spoke to some of the players in Chatham about what they're looking forward to at the All-Star game this Saturday.
It means a lot. Obviously coming out here, knowing it's the best summer league in the country, it means a lot as a player, but it also means a lot to, represent such a great team and organization in the Chatham Anglers.
It's just a great honor. This is a prestigious league, best wood bat summer league in the country, and always has been. So to be kind of at the top of that list, it's an honor.
Rounding out the last team in the 2022 All-Star Game is the Orleans Firebirds with 2 pitchers. Cameron, will start. They've thrown a combined no-hitter, All-American. What can scouts and fans be looking for from the Firebirds?
Well, it starts with Bryce Wareham out of Cal Poly. He's been the best player with the best ERA on this staff for Kelly Nicholson and company, a 1.73 earned run average in 26 innings of work. He nearly has a 4-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio, and it's a guy that's out of Cal Poly that when you talk about the Mustangs and you talk about a lot of other organizations on the Cape, Wareham maybe started at the bottom of the totem pole in terms of would he be the best starter on this staff, and all of a sudden he's the best pitcher on the staff, and he's proven himself. And I'm a big proponent of guys that come to the Cape and really prove themselves maybe when the eyes weren't fully on him, and Bryce Wareham has been that guy out of Cal Poly. And then Luke Keishel, your everyday 2-hole hitter for the Orleans Firebirds, leads this team with 36 hits. He also leads the team in at-bats, games played, RBI, stolen bases. It doesn't matter. He was an All-American. He's transferring over to Arizona State. He can really do it all. We've talked about the do-it-all guys, and I think Luke Keishel really showcases it more than any player on the Cape. He's also one of 5 hitters on the Cape with over 35 hits. So you talk about a guy that has really proven himself on the Cape. It's Luke Keishel, and a player in Bryce Wareham, if I can go back to him for a second, that'll most likely get drafted next year. And I know I'm focusing a lot on the MLB draft, but I love Major League Baseball. I love the draft. I love opportunities, and the Cape League has produced some of the best opportunities over the past couple decades, and Bryce Wareham will be one of the many that get drafted next year, no doubt in my mind. This season alone, 40% of the MLB draft played on the Cape. 197 players in the draft, and you just talk about the prestige of this league and how the Cape is able to just pump out players that prove themselves time and time again, and the draft stock just continues to rise. Luke Keishel, Bryce Wareham, a couple names to look out for, not just at the All-Star game, but for drafts moving forward.
So I have to wrap up this show by asking you guys, we have the East, we have the West. Who do we think is going to take this one?
It's going to be a great game. Let's start on that note. We've talked about so many great players, your All-Americans, a former Cape League MVP last year in Brock Wilkin, tons of great pitching all across the board. It's going to be tough for one of these two teams to come away now. Of course, the Cape League likes the tie as well, so we could see a tie. I want to pick the tie, but I'm going to pick winner. I'm going with the East. I think the East brings it home this year. There's tons of talent. You start with YD at the top, work your all the way down through the standings, and even a team like Harwich, like we said, a couple big guys in there, big power hitters. Brock Wilkin going to be in this year's home run derby as well. So I'm going to take the East in this year's All-Star game.
Cam, we got to ask, what do you think? You going the other side?
Let's make it fun. I'm going with the West. The Bourne Braves are one of the best players on the Cape, and it is my early favorite for Cape MVP, like Cade mentioned earlier in the show with Matt Shaw. I think he'll be unbelievable for Team West. And then the Hyannis Harbor Hawks have been the feel-good story of the summer, and they steal a lot of bags. So you get some Harbor Hawks on the base bats, and they're stealing. So I like the aggressive approach. I like the approach at the plate from Matt Shaw and a few other hitters, not to mention the Cotuit Kettleers just added 3 Team USA guys. So you never know about Cotuit and how stout they are. Yes, those 3 won't be playing in the All-Star game, but they're adding to guys like Tommy Troy and the other players on the team in their confidence. So I have a whole lot of confidence in the Kettleers. And guess what? We're at Spillane Field. Come on, you got to go with the Wareham Gatemen. 3 Gatemen representing Wareham in this All-Star game. So Give me the West. Do you want a score prediction? Should
Yeah,
I give one?
I think so.
Why not? 6-5. Let's make it a really close game, and the West wins it in the 8th.
Keeping their fans on their toes. Cade, Cameron, that is all we have for this year's 2022 preview show. Everyone tuning in, be sure to come to Wareham this Saturday for the 2022 All-Star Game here at Spillane Field. Gates open at 2 p.m. For Cade Crenshaw, Cameron Ezeir, Claire Foley, Alez Feuz, everyone behind the scenes, the CCBL interns, everyone helping produce this show, and especially Milton Cat for sponsoring this year's game, we want to thank you. I'm Emma Carman, your host, reporting from Spillane Field. Have a wonderful afternoon.